You want me to preach here now, David?
You can.
Good evening, everyone. Can we have a mic check, please?
Check.
Check.
Test.
Check.
Margaret,
Check.
Check.
can you hear everyone, Margaret?
Yes, I can hear everyone.
Okay, that's good. Okay. As I said, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Benton City Council meeting. Today is July the 10th already. Okay, I'm calling the meeting to order. Okay, let's see. Mr. Hyde, would you mind leading us in the pledge?
Yes. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, roll call, please.
Councilwoman Wadsworth.
Here.
Councilman Sandretto,
Here.
Councilman Reed. Councilwoman Funk,
Here.
Councilwoman Alcazar.
Here.
Is Councilman Reed going to make it tonight? Does anyone-
He was trying to, but he's at work this evening
Oh,
and he said he may not be able to attend. He asked that we excuse him.
I make a motion to excuse Councilman Reed. Second.
all in favor?
Sandra, I.
Wadsworth, I. Reed, Funk, I. Identity crisis.
Order of operations.
Yeah.
Okay, motion carries. Okay. So the first item on the agenda is bills and communications.
Do we need to approve the agenda, Madam Mayor?
I think that should be in here.
Should be further down.
Yeah, I think it's usually down after the consent agenda,
Yeah.
but I don't
It's not on
I
here.
don't see it on here, you're right. Okay, well,
It usually
Let's
takes
talk
place
about the
after the
agenda.
consent agenda.
we'll do it then. Okay, thank you. Okay, so what's on here now is the consent agenda. And that includes bills and communications and claim check numbers that need to be approved.
A motion to approve the July 10th, 2023 Benton City Council Special Workshop Agenda as written.
Consent agenda.
Consent. agenda.
Yeah, and then to say consent agenda as written.
Okay,
Second.
okay, all in favor?
Sandra, I.
Wadsworth, I. Funk, I.
Alcazar, aye.
Okay. Motion carries. Okay, now we will look at the full agenda. Are there any changes to this agenda that anyone would like to add?
Madam Mayor, when is the building moratorium going to be lifted?
I believe it's listed.
Is it lifted? It is. Okay, good. Got it. Thanks.
I think it was last week,
Was it?
last Wednesday.
Okay.
Okay, so
Except for the sub area plan.
For ID2. So.
yeah. Okay, we have an item here that's not on, which are two proposals for safety plan, and that needs to be added as item 5, I imagine here. Okay. All right. So we also now have the those are my place. Okay, so the first item that we have,
Excuse me, Madam Mayor, we need to approve the agenda.
yeah, I know, I'm getting there. I was just wondering if I had everything on here that I'm remembering. Okay. We have that one change as item 5. I'll take a motion to amend the agenda.
Motion to approve is amended.
Second,
Okay, all in favor?
Wadsworth, I.
Sandra, do I?
Okay. Alcazar,
Okay. Motion carries. Okay, then the first item for discussion is the city project status. Mr. Rainey.
Just a second here. So tonight, the first item we have is the KB School District. They're going to update us with some proposed changes to help the drop off and entrance at the elementary and middle school. So I have Pete Peterson here. Not sharing the screen then. There it is. Oh.
Well, good evening, Mayor Lehman, members of the council. I appreciate letting me come in tonight. It was about 2 weeks ago, actually 2 weeks to the day, that I was able to meet with Councilman Reed and Mr. Rainey regarding a proposal that the school district is considering. And I had some questions regarding the potential impact of some city street to a city street and potential for some development past that. So I'd like to go over that with you this evening. And when you first look at the presentation, I look behind me just to make sure we're looking at I'm looking at the same thing. I'm entering my 6th year as superintendent of Cuyahoga Benton City Schools. And I can tell you that I started receiving calls about 15 minutes after I started my first day regarding the parking and parent drop-off points at our elementary and middle school. So when we had the opportunity to begin working with an architect this year, school districts are required every 7 years to complete what's called a scope and study. That is a complete facilities review of all district facilities, as well as then the ability to tie in any potential projects to make some improvement. So we were due for that this year, and when we started working with an architect firm out of Clarkston, one of the things the board was very interested in doing was trying to alleviate both, what quite frankly, safety issues with our drop-off point off of SR 225 as you turn into the elementary middle school, as well as create some options that would make it safer for kids to cross, our walking kids who walk to school every day. We know that is an interest that our parent-teacher organization has brought forward, as well as community members in general who have kids who have over the years come from the, forgive my directional ineptitude, I believe it's the east side of Horn, and try to go across to the schools. So we've looked at multiple options over the years, but what we came up with is a plan that would minimize impact to 225, i.e. Keep us out of any real serious Department of Transportation hiccups, and could potentially vastly alleviate the cluster that occurs between 7:15 and 8:15 every school day morning, and then starts up again about 2:20 and ends about 3:15. And what you see before you is an elimination of the problematic area that what we conveniently call the mushroom entrance, which we have to close off every morning and afternoon because it's a 1954 design, wasn't designed for everybody in their cousin to have a car to drop off a kid in school. And what we would be doing is creating a drop off directly in front of the middle school, off of Grace Avenue, as well as extending the public parking in that area for the middle school specifically, increasing parking along Horn, again, for public. And if you notice this very small little arrows, you'll see that those are all one way. So what that will prevent is if you are going north on Horn, as so many people who are going through town, going to work out at the Hanford site know, you would then run into a large group of people who are trying to drop off there on Horn. Kids will be crossing the street, as well as some people who typically will yell a little bit at our parapros who are out there guarding the entrance with the chain that gets moved every once in a while, and really direct them back onto Grace Avenue, where people would be able to enter, specifically drop off middle school students at the middle school entrance, and then follow the one way all the way to the front of the elementary where you could drop off your elementary kids. And at that point, take a right turn only onto Horn, and get back into the traffic flow. Safety is obviously one of our primary concerns. However, I think the solution that was highest up on my priority list was that this is a community-wide impact. It's not simply an impact for parents of our students. This is an impact for anyone who travels through Benton City to get to work morning, afternoon. And I would say we have between 5 and 10 fender benders conservatively on Horn during those times, as well as increasing safety for our crossing guards, which we think is important too, because we do have a few folks who like to try and get through the school zone before the flag comes out, as every school district and every school does. Where things get really interesting, though, is in the process of completing our scope and study of the school district. What I imagine that they're going to find is that our weak link from a school building standpoint is our elementary school. In fact, other than an addition that happened in the 90s, there hasn't been a lot changed with Kaibi Elementary since the building was opened in, I believe it was 54 or 56. The infrastructure of the building simply will not allow for us to do major renovations that we would like to do with HVAC and such things, because once you get into the remodeled area, you actually will find the original building above the false ceilings. You will find in the foundations things that simply can't be fixed anymore. And part of my drive to get this looked at and considered is the one thing that I want to make sure we do is with any infrastructure potential improvements that we make it long lasting. We are not in a position to potentially go out to voters on a capital levy and then turn around and see new pavement or new driveways ripped up in the matter of 5 to 10 years when the time comes to replace that elementary. So what we're doing is trying to manage this within the sequence of a 10-year building plan, so that this is actually all completely as it would look if we were to either completely remodel or even rebuild a new elementary on that site. There would not be any changes made. Our drop-off zone, which again is part of my issue because all the buses come to the middle school side. They're off of Grace. And we would move that completely and separate it from parent parking and parent drop off. Which again is a safety improvement for kids as they're getting out, safety improvement for our parents as they're dropping off kids. And you can see where the yellow buses are parked on this rendering. And one of the first things that Bill and Alan and I discussed was the fact that those buses will actually be in a U formation, front to back, and not in a side-by-side formation, again, for safety reasons, and also just to ease the transitions we drop kids off. The reason that I wanted to meet with Councilman Reed and Alan, quite frankly, was one of the things that we would propose and like the city council and the city to take a look at, consider, would be an extension of Fay Avenue. Fay Street, Fay Avenue. And where that dead ends, right behind the intersection between the LDS church and the baseball fields, we would propose that Fay Avenue be extended to 13th. And what that would really allow would be several different opportunities for people to come off of Horn 225, avoid the area completely, and potentially reduce a significant amount of traffic, creating a very good flow. One of the things I am doing, and I heard Alan talking about it earlier tonight, is I'm trying to get with the Benton County Traffic Division, because I'd really like to see some hard numbers as to what they would expect traffic to look like following that type of an extension, as well as what the impact will be from our parking proposal. And at this point, it is simply a proposal. One of the things that I told Bill and Alan when I met with them was, I want people to shoot holes in this right now, as opposed to before we go to voters for a potential approval and have them shoot holes in it for us. I want to look at all the potential negatives, impacts and such before this thing ever gets too far down the road. The biggest thing to me, and the biggest priority for me personally, was again the idea that if we were to spend tax dollars that our taxpayers put into an improvement, that it wasn't simply going to be torn up, that whatever we create is going to be a long-term solution for the district and the city, so that we don't have to go back and redo anything that we've already paid for once. We think it's a good plan. My architect thinks it's a good plan. Conservatively, very conservatively, the board and I were fully expecting to have to piecemeal this project together, and we had it divided into phases. But we were able to get a very conservative estimate of right around $2.5 million for us to do this project, which quite frankly was significantly lower than I anticipated given the current construction costs and backlog. And we were able to realize that we would be able to do solely the portion on the school district property itself for $2.5 million. As far as the potential for levy amounts, we would not be asking for any tax increase were this to go before the voters. We would be looking for a continuation of the current tax rate that will expire at the end of this year when we pay off the high school. So it was extraordinary, quite frankly, in my mind, that we would be able to do this project without any type of an increase, even a short-term increase to taxation, but it's simply not going to be needed. I know Mr. Rainey has come up with some initial projections on some costs. Were the city and the school district able to partner on an extension of Fay? But I think from a long-term growth perspective, the infrastructure in that area is going to mandate that something be done. It may not be this plan specifically as it applies to Fay, But I think in some point in the future, with the number of building permits that I know that are already approved for the city, as well as what Councilmember Funk referred to in the I-82 sub area. You know, I remember sitting in these chambers a year or two ago for public meetings and talking about the possible addition of 1,000 homes or more or less, and then some other details. It's important that the school district get out in front of this and that we have the infrastructure to do it. Otherwise, those 1,000 homes will slap us in the side of the head and we won't have a good answer. Those obviously are separate parts of our 10-year plan for facilities improvements, but this, I think, will suffice for right now to potentially serve as the infrastructure for multiple projects down the road. So this is as much a way for the district to let the city council know what we're planning, as well as an opportunity for any council member or anyone to take a look at this and say, gosh, Pete, it looks great, or gosh, Pete, you didn't think about X, Y, or Z. And that, quite frankly, is my purpose in being here tonight. And I was very thankful to Councilman Reed and to Mr. Rainey when I first asked, well, when would be an appropriate time, July, August, September, to get in front of the board or in front of the city council. They said, well, you know, we have a planning meeting coming up. So things moved a little more quickly than I anticipated, but luckily we had these renderings done. My secretary was able to get them to Alan, and his staff was able to take it from there. So quite frankly, with that, I'd love to just entertain any questions, comments, concerns, anything like that from members of the council or the mayor or anyone else online.
So I'll give you two comments. The first is gonna be the Little League field on Fay. If you put a road infrastructure in there, it's gonna be awful close to those kids playing ball. I don't know if there's feasibility in making that safe for them. Because most of the kids playing there are between 6 to 13 years old. The other thing that I think I have a concern with is trying to make that a right turn only. I think you're gonna have a hard time retraining. And I say that word straight away, people not to turn left. And that's gonna be an issue for a while. And I don't know, you're gonna probably need county and law enforcement to help you with that, but I think a few years it'll come around, but I think that'll be an initial problem for you. Unless you can make that road curve so that it only goes right.
Yeah, I think right now, one of my first reactions would be that right now we don't allow traffic during drop off to even enter that area.
Right.
So the other piece would be, I'm sure that we would engineer something to highly encourage folks that they need to take a right. But I'm in agreement with that. I think that the alleviation of the traffic problems that we have in the morning and afternoon. I think direct, you know, if you're coming out of the elementary from picking up your student at 11 o'clock in the morning, taking a left turn isn't a big deal. At 7:20, it would be, and that's why we have to close the entrance altogether, because then we would just cause all sorts of nastiness for the city, and we don't want that either. So I appreciate your comments though very much.
Anybody else? Nope. That's
I
it.
would like to say, I think it's a great idea. Having been caught in it a few times, I know, and I've heard a lot of complaints, so, yeah.
Well, I think one thing, and I've said this to the board before, I think we're very cognizant of the fact that we want to try and solve problems that aren't just our problems, but that are community-wide problems. And this would be one of those. This is something that impacts anybody who passes through town. And as the board, as the council is well aware, the amount of traffic going through town will only increase as West Richland continues to push out towards it. And one of the things that I like to tell people too, you know, Richland's coming on one side of the mountain, Kennewick's coming down Badger, and sooner or later, probably sooner, the amount of traffic is going to spike. And so the district would like to try and address it as soon as possible.
Well, it's been on our radar, especially me and Alan. They've talked about this problem for a while. Council's been on board with crosswalks. We're working to get lighted crosswalks at 2 of your locations there. But we're also trying to get sidewalks all the way through town too, so that we can accommodate those students and keep them out of the roadway.
Yep.
So I appreciate, and I think I'll mirror the mayor. I appreciate that you're starting to be proactive on this particular issue. It's been a problem for some time now.
And also the diligence of you and the board that you've been able to do the research to be able to come before council and continue to talk to the community with the financials in front of you, along with supporting not only a project cost, but the fact that there's no tax increase, just a continuation. It's really meaningful to have financial information to back up your conversations that's supported by fact. Thank you.
Yep, absolutely. Please don't hesitate to reach out. I'm literally on the other side of the exterior wall, so please feel free to contact me anytime. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Council, I have a request. We have Fran here who had a comment, and I didn't see public comment on the agenda. So I would ask your permission if we could have Fran make a short statement.
Yeah,
For sure. Please.
Thank you.
Ms. Chambers.
Please. And staff, I would like you to revise these agendas for these meetings so that they look just like the regular city council meetings. That way I have approval of the agenda. I have public participation, so I don't have to think. Thank you.
May I just ask, just because it could make a difference on how this is set up, are you talking about just those workshops where they are also noted as a special meeting?
Well, if we have public participation and somebody wants to make a comment, I would like to have that and approval of the agenda. And if, you know, we seem to always have plenty of things to do. I guess if there's nothing else that requires that, we could go with a shorter agenda, but
No, it was just a question.
okay. Okay,
My name is Fran Chambers, and I lived in Benton City for a good many years on my street. And I've seen a lot of changes over the years, especially in the number of people that have moved into the area. There are quite a few years, there was only 1,200 people for years and years. And all of a sudden, everybody decided that this was a bedroom community, they could still drive to town. My concern is I live on Ione Street, and there is really a lot of heavy traffic on that area that people don't even live in that area. And they use it as a turnaround to, oh gee, I want to turn this way, I'll go back this way. And their speed is a lot faster than it should be. I don't know, and I'm not sure. Do we have a 25-mile-hour speed limit or 20 on the city street?
Yes, all residential is 25 miles an hour unless otherwise posted.
Okay, well, this isn't being addressed as far as a lot of people want to come through there, and it really concerns me because at one time, our little street, we had large families, and we had at least 50 kids on that street, and too many kids and dogs and whatever. And they've since moved on, but we do have young families that are living there now, and it is really getting to be a concern. People are not parking correctly like they should, so it really is detrimental to some kids getting hit or whatever. It really is a concern, and I don't know if maybe we could put designated signs on some of the streets, or not just mine, but they have I don't know if you've seen the turtles that some of the schools have, the green turtles that they have for slow. It's got a little helmet and we could place those, we could get regular signs that says please slow down, children present or whatever. I don't know. There's quite a few streets in town that need to have this. And those street signs, some of them are like $25 or $30 for those, but I didn't know if we had a special fund or community that we could draw from or have a fundraiser to get this put up. I know there's labors to putting the signs up, but I think the little green turtle things is kind of is a way of kind of, they're green and it kind of makes you think twice when you head down that street. Okay, so we could maybe place these some places. I don't know. I'm just getting the input from people and I just want to let you know that I do have a real concern for this. And I'm afraid that it's going to come to the point that somebody's going to get hit sometime and by somebody doesn't even live on the street. That's what my concern is. So
Yeah.
I just thought I would bring that to the council and see how you feel about this, but I think it needs to be addressed sometime or another. So I thank you for your time.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you.
I think there's a number of things we can do with signage and we'll get back to you.
Okay, I appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Okay, Alan.
Repeat. Okay, so we'll get along with our projects. First we have is TIB chip seal. We have some basic information there. We're trying to get at the bottom, we're trying to get the funds expended by the end of November. Maybe the middle of October. That's your optimal date for ending chip sealing when it gets too cold or too wet out. Right now, we're waiting for information from Benton County to add it as a change order to their chip seal project. And just try to meet with them today. Hopefully gonna meet with them tomorrow morning and find more about that. If we can't get that, we're gonna turn around and put it out to bid and do as our own project. But the Transportation Improvement Board or TIB, they've been really pushing heavily, trying to use an interlocal agreement with either Benton County or Franklin County, which in our minds has kind of cost us about 2 months at this point in time wise, but we're still moving forward on that. ARPA projects, we did get the agreements back from the county. And so right now we're moving forward with all our designs. We're looking at which projects are going to require a SEPA review. 2 of them right now in our minds require that. It was Dell Avenue Water and Sewer and lift station number 5. And so we'll be adding that into the program. It'll be about a 2-week process for both of those. But the Dell Avenue Water and Sewer, we hope to get that out to bid in about a month. We'll go through the SEPA project. We're working on that currently. And so hopefully in a month and a half, 2 months, we'll start construction on the water and sewer on Dell Avenue. Jacobs Road would be the next project we try to get out for bid. And since we're anticipating no SEPA requirement, that is categorically exempt. And we plan on getting design. It's essentially 45 to 50% complete. So we'll be finishing that up. I know we have complete there listed, but I guess I put that in there. Um. Trying to be a little ahead, yes, thinking that we'd be a little quicker, but we plan on getting that out to bid. And again, maybe construction by the end of August, early September. Lift station 5, SEPA is gonna be required. We have to go through design of that, and we're looking at using the funds to purchase the equipment and get that started early, because that's about last time I heard it was an 8 to 9 month lead time. So we could get that ordered and started, and then sometime in the winter to early spring, get that out to bid. And then probably the optimal time is going to be August, September for construction, because the water table is going to be lowered as the river gets lowered. It's going to help us. So it'd be less groundwater to deal with while they're in construction.
Just a little water.
Just a little water, yeah. Right next to the river, it'll be a big funnel right there. We'll make a water feature for the kids to play in.
Yeah,
And the other ones, the generators, and the force main, we'll be continuing to work on those. And so you probably see some task orders coming in, possibly next week. Is it next week? All right, yeah.
So, let me
so,
ask a
yeah.
question about the force main, just so that
Mhm.
I get this right. So our first section was from across the freeway to about Second.
Actually, yeah, yes,
And then we did added on to it at that point and pushed it all the way up to about the middle of the field.
Yes,
North of
correct.
Cora.
correct.
Now, this is just the completion from that point into the sewer plant.
All the way to the treatment plant. So that way, we still have concerns if we flood. Because we're sending that water from the south side of the freeway. That goes to the lift station 4. Out in the field, like you're saying. If we have a flood, lift station 4 still handles the water from the Babs area and whatnot. So that area could be flooded and would inundate lift station 4, which means we shut down the lift station across the freeway too.
Mhm.
So now if we take that all the way to the treatment plant, there's nothing that would hinder that operation of lift station 7 by the Conoco station during a flood. So if this area is flooding, that will pump all the way to the treatment plant.
Right, from
And-
clear across. the
Yeah,
freeway.
yeah.
Now, does that bypass lift station 2 and 4 when you do that? Or do you actually pump into that same line from?
Well, lift station 2 by a Dollar General. And lift station 7 utilize the same force main. But if the area around lift station 2 is flooded, we'd just be turning off lift station 2. And then 7 would still continue on through, because there's a check valve.
Okay, that's what I
In
was
the main
kind of
line, yeah.
wondering, how you guys had it set up.
Yeah.
Okay.
So. Any questions on the ARPA projects?
When are they done
Oh, they'll be done in 2 weeks.
with tax?
Yeah. Okay. Let's see, DOT funded projects. This is the Riverfront Park Trail. We're gonna have a NEPA assessment required on this. We'll be working on that in conjunction with the Railroad Bridge NEPA. And then we do have a right-of-way easement with County Irrigation District that we have to work on. And right now, the beginning up here at the top, we have a wash dot approval in progress. Since there was only 2 consultants that submitted, we have to go through a sole source approval. I mean, the city's considering only 1 engineer. That's kind of the way so it's just another process we have to go through. provide them documentation, and we're working with them. And then also our consultant agreement, working with them. So we're hoping that we can get some of that taken care of and possibly to you guys at the next council meeting. And then we can start working on that. And that's the same with the pedestrian crossing. So as soon as we get some headway with DOT, we'll be bringing it to you guys.
And that's for all the pedestrian crossings, Alan, or
Yep.
just the one that's down here by the
No,
river
what,
front park trail?
so what we have is, we're gonna be designing for all 6.
Okay,
And then we're gonna go in order that was listed. The recreation area and boat launch, that
Mhm,
crossing. Then we jump up to Grace Avenue. Was for number 2. And so we will put out to bid. I would guess probably 3 of them at this point. And see where that falls. We'll say 2 crosswalks for sure. Third one is optional. And if we get good numbers, we could, add a 4th with a change order or something. But bidding for 2 gives us the option if, depending on what the bids come in at, that we have that flexibility to award 2, maybe 3. And if it's really good, we might be able to add a 4th in there. And as a side note to that, DOT and the school district were working on a crossing at Grace. And I believe DOT has purchased one of the flashing beacons. So we'll have that to use in part of the project. So I'm thinking we'll get probably 3 of them done for sure. So.
do we know more? I think this is the right place to ask because it's kind of about crosswalks too. For Benton Franklin Council of Governments, doesn't the TAC come up soon for like requests for projects and stuff? Is that kind of between now and August? Do we know if there's going to be more opportunity for like continued funding for anything that we're not able to get through?
I would have to look. BFCOG sent something out. The meeting was canceled for July,
Okay,
but he did send out information. And so I haven't had a chance to read through that. So I plan on doing that. Yeah.
I also sent Alan something on safety improvement, something or others.
Right. And we started going through it and I don't think we're really eligible for
Oh.
that.
Okay.
Yeah. But no, I appreciate you sending that over.
awesome.
Okay. Any other questions on this?
When are you starting these?
As soon as we can get the DOT to give us sole source approval or an agreement with the city, and then a consultant agreement that they approve of, then we'll bring the agreement for you guys to approve. Because we have to use their agreement essentially instead of our task orders that we normally bring.
Because it's their roads.
Sole source.
Yeah, but it's their funding.
Love to see one of these in before school starts.
Well, I don't think that's gonna happen.
Yeah, I was afraid you were gonna say.
Yeah,
that.
yeah. So hopefully we can get well, we'd love to get them in before November. So, and a lot of that's gonna be dependent on the bidding climate, and how busy people are. Okay. Any other questions on that one? Okay, so the HUD funded projects. So the inspections came back good. There were a few things that were mentioned in the report about some cracks and stuff in the piers, the supports for the bridge. And the engineer, basically the sergeant engineers who are the structural engineers for the bridge, said that doesn't really concern them. It's typical with bridges of this age. And he said he wouldn't spend the money to try to do anything to them, that they should hold out for a lot of years. I don't know. how many years that is, but
I imagine those pilings go quite deep, right? Not just the,
we don't
Sure.
know. Yeah, we don't know because nobody has any plans of them. So I would think so.
yeah, to support the trains.
Yeah, yeah.
They can't be just in sand, I wouldn't think.
And so with that, they think it would be a good project for the city. And I guess we're going to be looking for a recommendation from the council to, if we move forward with trying to purchase a bridge and starting to work towards that. And so we kind of have an updated schedule. So it says updated schedule, July 2023 is finalized and approved revised budget. We're working with Senator not Senator, Congressman Newhouse's office, and trying to find out how much flexibility we have for the original application, because we had line items in the budget there, and it equaled $2.4 million. And we want to see what kind of flexibility we have with the original line items and how closely we have to match that. And so we'd like to, once we negotiate a price, if it's more than the 300,000 that was listed in the application, that we'd be able to shift money over to pay for that 100%. So, and so we're anticipating August grant submittal to be completed, because we need a narrative and the new budget line items, whatever we come up with, that we'll send to HUD, and they'll have to be reviewed, since there's a change in it, be reviewed by Newhouse's office, and they would concur with that. And so in September, we look at starting the NEPA review, and hopefully November timeframe, purchase of the bridge, and then 2024, we could move into design and hopefully construction of the new walkway on the bridge. So, any questions with that? So I guess, I don't know if we would do that here. Kind of a recommendation to move forward with the planning to buy the bridge, or we just continue as we're doing, and just inform you
I
each
think
meeting.
I'd like to see a revised budget.
Okay,
And I'd also like to understand, if we haven't accepted the HUD grant, the cost we've incurred
Mhm.
up until we accept the HUD grant, are they still eligible for reimbursement?
Those are eligible for reimbursement.
Awesome.
Yes.
That's great.
So everything we've done to this point is all eligible.
As long as we accept
Yes.
the award.
Any other questions? Okay.
We have a local person, a local Benton City resident who's on Newhouse's staff.
Is
Oh,
that
really?
Dallas?
I think not Dallas. I think her
She
name,
shows up at a lot of things.
she does show up in a lot of things. I could get you her card though.
Okay.
I don't recall her name being Dallas Mayor Lehman, but she's very active and she went to high school here. Also, I believe in the
I think
community and
it's
returned back.
Dallas. I
Okay.
know she,
Okay.
I think she's told me she
We'll
was.
go knock on her door tonight.
Okay, okay. We'll find that contact
Yeah.
information.
Okay, that'd be great. And then we're on to the RCO maintenance grant, and Nathan's been working on this for us.
Thank you, Alan. So I have been working on the RCO maintenance grant, which I know Alan has discussed with you guys in previous meetings regarding the possibility of upgrading or repairing, I should say, the Archie Borden Park, the tennis courts and the fencing there. In researching the grant and the eligible items, kind of opened some doors, because we realized that it's a maintenance grant specifically. So it could be for repairs to existing parks only, but it could be a grant that across all of the parks. It didn't have to be specific to one. So with that in mind, I met with Jose Ibarragan, our public works director, and went through and looked at all of the parks, and together we came up with a list of items that we thought would be eligible and would fit for applying for this grant. Originally, we were running pretty full steam because the grant opened beginning of July and closed the end of July. But right when we hit July 1st, all of the dates were extended. So we do have a little bit more time to work on this, fortunately. The grant application now opens in August 15th, and it doesn't close until September 18th. The other intent with this grant originally was that everything had to be done by the end of this year, but now that's been pushed out for about 2 years as well. So one of the things that is a challenge with this is we cannot do any excavating for this grant. So even things like replacing fence posts were not eligible items for repairs, which, you know, we really wanted to repair that fence at the tennis court, but because there's fence posts there that require replacement, was something we had to remove off of the list of eligible items. So you can see to the side here, let me make this a little bit bigger. We have a list of the items that we came across that we thought were the best selections. There was a lot of parking lot repair items that we originally looked at, but in discussing with Jose, he mentioned if we could use this grant to purchase a striping machine, which equipment is an eligible item, then that's something that could be done in-house. So we're right at the max amount that we can ask for. It's from 50 to 100,000, and we're right at 99. And these are the items that we thought would be the most beneficial to use this grant specifically for. I mean, I agree there are other needs at the parks, and there are other things that I'd love to see done. But for this grant and for the items eligible, these are the things that we saw that we thought would be the best options. I've got a few more slides with these descriptions, and then if you have any questions, you're welcome to ask. For the recreation and boat launch park, some picnic tables and garbage cans that are in pretty rough condition due to their use. The drinking fountain there is non-operational. It's been broken for some time now. And then we're hoping, and I've been working with Margaret Dukes on this, also incorporating replacing signs. I know you guys have been looking at signs and looking at designs and different logos. For this grant, we can only replace what's an existing fixture, and we can't, again, put posts in the ground. So the sign replacements we'd look at would just be for the recreational park and city park, because those are the ones that have current signs that we could look at replacing. For Archie Borden, there are some trees there that we mentioned removing. There are 3 larger trees. My screen here is blocked from this picture, but I'll try to see if I can. I don't have a good picture of the trees, but it's the 3 larger trees by the skate park. There are older trees that have been there, and newer trees have been planted to kind of replace them that won't be as high maintenance items. Tennis court, I met with a surfacing company regarding the tennis court, and based on the condition, they're recommending that we cut out a 6-foot strip through the middle of the court where there are extreme cracks, and the cracks are about this thick and they go in very deep through the entire asphalt that's there. They recommend we cut that out, pour concrete in those locations, and then come in and resurface. So, and then we've got a corner where there's been water erosion and it's pretty much eroded away completely. So those areas would require concrete poured there. Because it was an existing asphalt surface, we can dig out the asphalt and pour concrete. I did ask specifically the grant, because again, they had this no excavation limitation, and they said that would qualify. Taking out an existing and replacing would qualify. So, but to fix it correctly, they recommend again that we remove those sections of asphalt and pour concrete in its place, and then come in and recoat the entire surface. At this time, we could look at possible change of use, which I know we have discussed that at previous meetings, pickleball, basketball, soccer, things of that nature. Some of these things would not be eligible. So before we poured the concrete, we would have to come up with a drainage solution for that northeast corner of the tennis courts. And that's something that would have to come out of city funds to take care of. Otherwise, we're going to have the same problem again if we just pour concrete in that place. So we don't have any numbers or anything official on that yet, but it is something we're looking at. And here's a picture of a possible redesign. So instead of the three, or I think it was 2 tennis courts, 3 pickleball courts and a basketball court, was something the contractor designed for us. So just give you an idea of what it could look like. And then some additional park projects. Well, that's it for the RCO grant. Any questions or comments on that? Okay. Additional park projects we're looking at. There's a lot going on with parks right now. And I thank you guys for being proactive about these. For the recreational boat launch park, I know we have discussed the light poles there. And with that, we were hoping to be able to do some grading of the area, put in some grass, make it more like a park. Alan and I and Jenny, I guess you stepped out. And Jose met with Department of Fish and Wildlife today, and we walked through a few of the parks that we have, this being one. So they gave us a lot of information about what they want to see done or what we can do according to Department of Fish and Wildlife. And taking out a lot of the natural vegetation and replacing it with grass was not something that they are very favorable. They want to keep natural habitats as much as possible. So one recommendation that they put together for this park specifically was possibly as you drive in, you've got boulders that border one area to the right and kind of go around. And they mentioned using like a 20 to 30 foot stretch along the boulders, grading that area and just making that a grassy area, but keeping the rest as natural habitat. Were we to do that, we would be able to combine, because it will require archaeological verification. So when we go there to dig for the light poles, to run the power, dig to put in irrigation, it will require archaeological verification. So we could combine all that at one time, and hopefully that would save some time in that process while we're doing that. We're still collecting pricing for the light poles. And again, one option there is to just do all the underground work now, if that's what we can afford, and look at actually installing the light poles on the bases at a later time. Department of Ecology, that there is a dip in the ground there. I know we've discussed filling that in. And Department of Ecology said that they don't have a concern with that as long as we don't add dirt. So what we would have to do is grade some dirt off of the high area and put it into the low area to kind of level that out. But again, that's an area that Department of Fish and Wildlife does not want us to disturb because it's natural habitat. So any questions, comments on that?
I have a comment.
Yes.
Just to share. Back in February, Jenny and I met with Benton Franklin Conservation District, and they provided some feedback on what design could look like for part of that area down there to use native plants.
Okay.
And maybe have that be like a Boy Scout project or something like that. But I think some of the pieces like around moving dirt, some of the grading or whatever everything else were kind of out there. They also talked about, and Jenny has this information too, type of plants you could put around a non-motorized boat launch to help with just erosion and stuff like that. So I could resend this if that's something that's useful. The design was free and just a suggestion, but I think further to the plans and consistent with prior discussions with Fish and Wildlife around the amount of grass and what you could do with some of the other space.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that'd be the desire of anyone and not for the whole part, but this is kind of like it has like a natural walking trail and then vegetation, but a little bit more easy maintenance
Mm-hmm.
and still natural and also drought tolerant.
Those are great ideas to add. And Department of Fish and Wildlife mentioned that as well for that park and for the disc golf course. as well as adding natural vegetation. They actually mentioned the same district, the conservation district, to get in touch with them. So it's great that you guys have already done a lot of that.
I'm happy to
Yeah.
share the information. Yeah, they're the ones who gave us the reference originally.
Yeah, that would be great. Moving on to the disc golf course and adding that. So that was part of the conversation we had with Fish and Wildlife today there, was as we designed this golf course, again, they want to really limit what we do to the natural landscape, but they were okay with minor tree trimming to make the golf course work. So not a lot of limbing high, but just kind of trimming of dead branches and really mostly small brush that's grown around the trees and the small twigs that are lower to the ground, developing little tunnels for the golf course, for the disc golf, for the guys to throw their frisbees through. But with that, they also mentioned that the area on the northern side, so this area up here would be a great potential for adding some of that natural vegetation as well. And they mentioned, again, same thing, that we reach out to the conservation district and maybe partner with them on what types of native vegetation we could put in this area that would make it more aesthetically pleasing, and also just add a little bit to this area. Some of the plants they mentioned were milkweed, thank you, which attracts butterflies, but that requires water. So we would have to look at, and possibly a phase in the future, adding irrigation to these areas to add some of the vegetation that they recommended. But there are natural ones that we can put in that do not require irrigation. So some options that we're looking at and working on. Adding with that, so for the disc golf course, I also met with Manny Ponce, and he's working on obtaining sponsors for these. We are looking at using wine barrels and concrete to put the disc golf baskets and the disc golf signs at each hole, essentially. So we have 9 holes here, and that way we don't have to get Fish and Wildlife approval on archaeological excavation. So they won't have to have anybody there because we won't be digging in the ground, essentially. So what we put together is about $1,000 a hole is the cost. But again, Manny is looking at obtaining sponsors for that. So we're hoping that's something that we can move on sooner rather than later, and maybe start having some, as we get sponsors, as he gets sponsors and coordinates that, then we can work on putting the disc golf course together. Another good thing is I have on here, obtain volunteers and city staff for tree and brush cleanup. Really, there's not going to be much of that. There's, again, a little bit of trimming that has to be done, but even Fish and Wildlife said to leave the trimmings there. Don't worry about hauling them away, just put them in a pile somewhere, and it still works as a habitat for some of the smaller birds, things of that nature. So the non-motorized boat launch. So we trekked through the vegetation down here in this area to kind of look at what that would look like. And in a nutshell, Fish and Wildlife said it's possible. There will be some permitting that will need to go through and approvals, but definitely something that they said that we can do. Whatever vegetation we remove that's natural. So if we have a parking area in this section here, we have to put together a mitigation plan where we will replace that vegetation somewhere else in that park, or actually in another park in a 2-to-1 ratio. So we work on that. We can have something like that put together. Questions or comments on the disc golf and boat launch? Okay.
Real quick, so if you take out vegetation there, they want you to double it somewhere else, is that correct?
That's correct.
Yeah.
That's correct. Natural vegetation, any invasive species, Russian olives, they just say get them out of there, get them gone. But if it's something, sagebrush, they love sagebrush a lot. So if we take out sagebrush, they want us to put a solution together that will replace that somewhere else in the 2-to-1 ratio. And we discussed maybe even putting a line of sagebrush along here to kind of border between the path and the disc golf course. So kind of on this north side of the disc golf course. My mouse working.
And say your milkweed would go great on the north side of the path, because everybody's already irrigating.
That's true. Just have the neighbors make sure they keep their sprinklers on there. That would be great. That would be great.
I would just caution about milkweed because it is poisonous to a lot of domestic animals. While it may be native, I don't think we want to create an environment that people take their dogs walking through there and there's horses in the area. I don't think we would want to take any risks.
One of the reasons they were pushing for milkweed is that milkweed is, I think, the only plant that monarch butterflies eat and nest on.
Okay.
And that's why they're pushing, because a lot of people are getting rid of the milkweed, and so we're seeing a decline in the monarch butterflies.
Possibly that's something we could just put closer to the river, off of the trail. You know, there's a lot, it's a big park, there's a lot of space there, but there's definitely options to look at, and there's other plants as well.
Nathan,
Yes.
what about the exercise equipment? What's the next step for the exercise equipment stations? How does that get considered if you've solved these other challenges?
We have not had any conversations on the exercise equipment. We've looked at this as phase one for the disc golf course. I can tell you, as long as we're not excavating into the ground, and I haven't seen anything on this equipment. I don't know what it looks like. I know that we have some in Grandview where I live, and a lot of it is there's posts in the ground, and then there's rungs like a ladder, or there's other things. If it's something like that where we have to excavate, then we will have to work with Fish and Wildlife on archaeological verification. If it's something that can be set on a concrete pad on the ground, and we pour a concrete pad on the ground, then we won't have to do that.
So I think Alan has all those plans.
Yeah. Yes, I think I do. And with that, I think probably at this point is I don't think we'd have to go through a cultural resource survey, that if we just have somebody on site while the digging's being done, then I think it'd be cheaper in the long run. So I think if you did the survey, you're still gonna have to have somebody out there in the field, so. I think we'll work with Fish and Wildlife to move that one forward. So we met with, the regional guy, and also, person that is in charge of all the committee. So we'll bring that up in this week. And I'll have some more information for you next week.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments on this part?
The orbital marker signs have kind of fallen apart, but Mustang signs reprinted them for us.
Yeah,
And so we're
did you
going to
get
work
them
to
done?
get them up hopefully in the next couple weeks as the maps go into. Yeah.
Great.
Thank you.
Few other park projects we have are some fencing projects. So we have a bid packet out, and actually the bids are due tomorrow for fencing around the reservoir at Legion Park, which is a 6-foot chain link with barbed wire on the top. We've had security issues there at that reservoir. Mountain View Park fencing on the north and south ends, just to create a barrier there. And that's just a 4-foot chain link. And then also the fencing at Blacktop Estates. Those are all combined in one bid packet. And Blacktop Estates is a 6-foot chain link fence. With that, to provide additional update on Blacktop Estates, the grading for that is scheduled to be completed by next week. I spoke to the contractor today, and he said they would be out there next week to get the grading done. And once that's complete, then we can move forward with the rest of these projects, which is the irrigation parts, hydro seeding, the boulders, and the fencing. You can see here, we've gotten estimates on everything except the fencing at this point, and that's kind of what we're looking at for a total budget. About $21,000 for the irrigation, hydro seeding, and boulders. So once we get that, the grading verified, once it's done and verified, then we can discuss moving forward onto the next phase and making these purchases and contracting for these additional items to get this park up and going. We do have future plans for this park for the splash pad. And we're looking at applying for RCO grant for that next year for the splash pad, parking area, and all of that. So for now, it'll be one nice grassy field, but it's a good start to this park.
And as we're preparing for that down in the future of maybe doing a splash pad, are we gonna have all of the water and everything already prepared for it?
Yes, actually, it's already there.
Perfect.
So the water and sewer, there's already stub outs under the park for all of that.
Now, if they can find them again.
They will.
There's big sticks in the
Oh,
ground.
yeah.
I saw
Get the
them, so
dowser.
They are there. Yeah, once the guys get there and grade it, then we'll find out what happens, but they're all still March. Well. Any questions, comments on the fencing or the Blacktop Estates? Right. And I guess that's everything for me, so. Alan, did you want to discuss the other projects? Sure. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So the other projects we have listed here are potential street projects. So there's, Edith Avenue, Cleo Lane, Hope Lane, Carroll east of Third and Core Lane. Now, right now, we have those last four is marked as paving only. That could be something is like a chip seal type of project. It's actually, it's a little bit thicker. It's a double shot of oil. So you put gravel down and put 2 shots of oil on it, and that'll get you a little over an inch thick of pavement. And then I've seen a lot of cities do this. Sunnyside used to do this on a lot of their side streets that were just gravel, and they went through town and did that. And you get a good base, and then you come back and chip seal in the future. So you just keep building up on it. So that's a possibility. And one other thing that we don't have in here is Kendall Road. And we will try to find some funding for that, but and I don't have a good cost estimate in front of me right now, but there's the section of I think 3 homes from 14th to where the park is. We have REA ready to move forward to drop it from the pole on the corner and run it all the way underground along that section. So, there, I guess, strike while the iron is hot, maybe, because we have REA, ready to move forward. So that's something that we'll try to work through in budgeting and see if there's any funding out there. But it's kind of hard because Kendall Road is not, it's not considered an arterial through our funding agencies or by TIB or DOT. There's a chance that maybe we could get that changed. We'll look into that. And if it is changed to an arterial, then we have a potential for other funding. But I just want to make you guys aware of that. And Edith Avenue is another one that we might consider because we have that short section from 13th in a couple lots that aren't being developed.
About 3 lots, but
Yeah. So,
but I don't think, let's see, I know one of those properties is owned by somebody off of Della, and they're not gonna develop. That's their goal, is to keep it empty.
right. Yes, yeah. But so you have 2 that are facing 13th, so they're already developed. And so no new house is gonna go in there. You can't require develop. And so I don't know if you go in and put the rest of the street in, do a latecomers agreement.
You can find the dollars to do it. I don't think the council's
Okay,
opposed to it. Obviously, our funds are limited, right?
Right.
So,
right.
anytime we can get somebody to assist us, state,
Yeah.
county, federal.
Right.
Otherwise, I think it's gonna have to be the developers. We
Right.
take care of it.
Yep. So I just kind of want to throw those out again, and then we'll keep looking for funds to do something.
I'll keep sending you what I find.
Okay. And I think that's it. Any questions on anything?
No, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys.
So much.
Yep. All righty.
I guess I'm up next here. City Hall improvements, touched base again with Skylar Rude's office this week, and they still believe that it's going through. I asked her to Tammy, his assistant, to get me the name of somebody in Commerce so I could confirm it. She said she would talk to them first and then get back to me, and I have not heard back yet. So that was as of last Thursday or Friday. Also, I just wanted to say that the architect engineer and the architect has offered to do this revised plan so that we could get estimates on the HVAC. I just wanted to summarize that again, that's right now why we can't move forward with costing unless we have the plans revised. I think her estimate was $4,200 or $4,300 to revise the plans. And once we have those drawings, then we can go forward with looking at the mini splits, which should save us quite a bit of money. So that's where that stands. Any questions? Okay, then I have put out to you the transition plan. And we use the Harvard University, this is the Kennedy School or Institute of Politics. And that's the transition guide for newly elected mayors. And that has been distributed to the two candidates. What you have below are the main items that from that plan that I figured out that this is what I could do in response to that plan. These are helping to answer the questions that are in the plan. I don't see these items as mandatory because a lot of it depends on whether or not the new mayor wants advice. But these are the types of things that I listed that I think would be important to meet the goals of the Harvard plan. So discuss goals and meet with the incoming mayor to strategize goals. Assist the new mayor in creation of a plan and answer questions such as understanding the budget. Resources are already allocated, committed. Existing plans that we had. Understanding functions of the mayor council form of government. Council's main goal, our budget policy, and we have one unique provision that only applies to Benton City. Mayor administration, hiring, firing staff, presiding over council meetings, developing the budget and ceremonial roles. Also to assist with communication of the new mayor's plan and provide introductions to department heads, administrative and maintenance staff, legal resources, superintendent schools, union leaders, chamber of commerce, major nonprofit organizations, citizens groups, miscellaneous groups, and religious community and other elected officials. Assist the new mayor as requested with building an organization. Explain the process of hiring new staff. Communicate understanding of current work needs. Share ideas, visions, and formulate necessary adjustments. Most important position is the city clerk treasurer, who will serve as advisor and in the mayor's absence will manage the office. The mayor pro tem will lead the council meetings and sign documents in the mayor's absence. Understand the strengths and weaknesses of staff and clearly document communications. secure access to training, technical and materials, resources as required, and look for feedback. So that is my plan of action. Are there any questions?
Please keep the council informed if somebody doesn't want to participate when the transition happens, so that we know what we're dealing with.
Okay,
And I would just say, I think, big thanks to you for your level of involvement just throughout the whole region. I think it's a big testament when you hear Alan give these project updates and some of the other items on the agenda. I mean, there's so many balls, Mayor Lehman, that you've been keeping up in the air for so long, not without support from others, but that you've really been holding up. That if there's more support or the right support or concerns that you have about things not being supported, please know we all love our community and want to make sure that we can carry on the good work that you've started. I think that's really important to everyone here, and probably it goes without saying, but I think that they're big shoes to fill, in my opinion, with some of these good relationships that you've formed and the amount of time that you spend keeping our voice at the forefront of so many people in the region. Thank you.
thank you. Okay. All right. So I think we already covered these city park signs, have we not?
That is correct, yes.
Okay. All right, then we do have two proposals this evening for safety. I want to be sure the other person is on that's going to present. Is Mr. Nems on?
Yes, I am.
Oh,
Yes, I
okay.
am here.
Okay, great. Okay, and the other gentleman is here. Okay, so since you're here, would you like to step up first and come up here? We have your handout. And just state your name, Nathan, and
my name is Nathan Porter. I run Proactive Safety Solutions in Kennewick, Washington. My normal clientele are small businesses that need handbooks and safety work and stuff that they don't know about until they get the inspector in and go, here's your ticket, you need to fix all this. I was asked to do a proposal for the needs of Benton City, and we kind of did a 3-tier process in it, right? The first one is I spend a week or two running around with the public works folks and different people in the city and seeing what your real need is. There's no sense in reinventing a book if we don't need to reinvent the wheel, right? After that, we'll have a discussion with the mayor and whoever else is involved with this on what these are the things I think you should have in the manual. Now, once we do the manual, it's not a set in stone. It needs to be reviewed once a year to make sure that it's still up to date with what you need and add stuff to it. That'll be probably about a 3-month process to get that done. And there'll be a couple of revisions where I hand it out to people and go, okay, here you go. This is what we got. What do you want changed in it? It's not me just going, here you go, this is what you need, good luck. I want you to be involved in your own plan, because with safety, it has to come from the top down. It can't be me back there going, you need to do all this and go, good luck. It really needs to be a top down thing. So if you go out to a job site, make sure you have your reflective gear on, make sure you have your hard hat. That's the same thing that your guys should be having on when they're out working. You need to show that it's important to you. After we do the book, course, we need to make sure that everybody's trained up on confined space, and do you have the right equipment for fall protection, and kind of do a quality review of what training you have and maybe what training you really need. And then after that, it's maintenance. Whether it's once a month I come and we train your folks up for what they need, or if there's a program that we can set them up on to where they log in and they just do their monthly training through a PowerPoint on the computer. Lots of companies do it that way. It makes it to where if they got a moment of downtime, or at the end of the day, oh, I got this little 30-minute video I got to do real quick. It's easy versus putting all your people in one room and taking a couple hours of their day out of the way for the month. I hope that that's really my plan. You guys have any questions for me?
Yeah,
I just wanted to say one thing before we
go ahead.
get into that. I have asked both of these candidates not to discuss the costs. Those, because we have 3 people submitting costs, so I'm going to submit those costs to you
Okay,
in a closed session.
all right. That was my question.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Well, I was prepared for that, but she had said no. So that's the reason I didn't put it in there is
We have to compare that is what we need to do, and
Yes.
as well as the presentation. So,
Right,
all right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
thank you. Okay, then we have Paul. Paul Nims, who is on the phone. And
Am I unmuted?
Yep.
yeah, and we
Okay.
have your handout as well.
Okay, I guess may I go ahead and begin then?
Yes, just go right ahead, please.
Okay, so since I can't see anybody, it's a little bit more difficult. So yeah, I'll go ahead and introduce myself to the council and to Madam Mayor here. So my name is Paul Nims. I actually grew up in Benton City in my younger years. I grew up on Hamilton Road. I was even a Royal Ranger back in the early 90s. So this is there was no better place to be in the early 90s than Benton City. I tell you what, if I could go back and get a cyclone from Wolfies right now, I would. So a little bit about it. So fast forward many years now, because I'm getting old. I am currently only weeks away from getting my my doctorate in safety and health and industrial hygiene. I worked for the U.S. government in safety for the last 15 years in industrial hygiene. We started a little family consulting business on the side that my wife and I own, and hope someday to give it to the kids. And so this kind of got brought up to us, and so we decided we'd like to try to give back to the community that helped raise me. Similar to the other bidder, it is hard to. You are going to see the set of proposal that I gave to you on one sheet. On the other sheet, there's not. We had to kind of pull those numbers from underneath of a brick, because really until you get there and you do a full-blown assessment of what is needed to be done, what is missing, what's already there, so you don't have to reinvent the wheel. There's a lot of moving parts that I really can't bid successfully without knowing what those are. So it does begin with an assessment, and that usually does involve meeting with the people. That involves watching work, observing it, understanding what they're doing, interviews with the workers, making sure that we get an idea of the training, what they believe is wrong with the culture, and taking a deep dive into that at the same time while you're doing a walkthrough and you're inspecting for any kind of hazards that are available, and you make a list of that. You then got to compile all that, and then you can come up with an idea of what we're going to do with it. Now, half of that stuff would go into the safety manual. You have regulatory, you have law, you have the basic needs of what the workers are going to have, and that will help make the safety manual. Now, that safety manual does get broken down into subcategories that I don't even know if you guys have them. That can be a HAZCOM manual. That can be, a job hazard analysis that we got to put together. So there's a lot of subcategories underneath of your accident prevention plan. is what the safety manual would be, that they go along with that. So again, without knowing if you have those and how much, if you do have them, how much work they need to be updated, that's kind of hard to be able to do without the original walkthrough. The city policy statement, that's kind of the same idea. And then we have the safety culture that was brought to my attention that would need that. And that again goes through, you know, meeting the workers, meeting all the staff actually work. That can be field work supervisors, that can be in-house and administrative folks. We got to know, you know, their training, the development, implementation of their safety team. I don't know if you guys have a safety team. If not, by law, we have to make one. So there's so many pieces that we just can't go anywhere until we know those. But they are part of what that assessment would be, is identifying those things and putting through the legal avenues that need to be there, and making sure that the workers are heard, making sure that the management's heard, and being that middle person to be able to communicate those two things and build a better safety culture and a safer place for the workers to be, and as well as the environment and the company, which in this case is the city. With that, I kind of just put a last piece there, if you're looking at my paperwork there, under safety and IH consulting. So I kind of threw out some numbers as well, this would just be flat rate stuff. And then I said, you know, well, we could even do hourly type deal, and that would all be discussed upon, you know, selection if that needs to be there. I'm definitely looking to help the city and give back to it. So I'm more than willing to work several different options to make sure that we are able to get exactly what you guys need. And again, I'm kind of pitching something without, there's nothing there other than that would be the goals. We have to get there, take the assessment, and do all that. Now, when we do have things made, whether that's the safety manual, and we clean up the safety culture, we get the training done. I'm an OSHA authorized trainer. I'm also a professor. And so one cool thing about what I can offer is any training that we give to your workers or the workforce, they actually get college credit for, that they get to keep. So it actually, for continuing training, when I go there and train them at your place, they can cash that in for true college credit. They can graduate sooner and cheaper. So that's kind of a neat thing that I can offer them through Columbia Southern University as a learning partner. As far as the training goes, to give you an outline, I mean, there's regulatory stuff that's got to be done, and then there's the identified stuff that we would basically identify at the time of the assessment, what needs to be there, and then look at what you already have made and update that. That goes back to the safety manual. And I would just make sure that the safety manual is needed, is updated. I would have your safety manual done within that would be about a week's time after I get the assessment. So not a long wait. We make sure we get people in there, get stuff done, get people safe, and then build a relationship with you guys and come back as you guys need it, and make sure that stays at cost benefit ratio. So is there any questions for me on any of that there?
Any questions?
No.
No, apparently not. Well, thank you very much, both of you, and we will get the dollars together for the council, and then we will get back to both of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you for coming. Okay. So now we are moving to items for approval. And the first one is resolution 2021. Benton City ordinance, which is the 2023 fee schedule.
Motion to approve resolution 2023-14, City of Benton City 2023 fee schedule.
Second,
All in favor?
Sandra, do I?
Wadsworth, aye.
Plunk, I.
Alcazar, aye.
Okay. Motion carries. Thank you. Okay.
Mayor, would it just be, okay, I know that the vote's already been taken, but just to present information about where some of the figures came from. They were done in comparison to, help me out here, Carla. if I say-
Richmond.
West Richland and Richland.
Right, in comparisons to what we do, what they do, and what it costs, and I hope that gives you some of these changes were otherwise maybe less anticipated or unexpected. I don't know if that-
Yeah, we had that discussion last time and, you know, I was looking at the fact that we didn't take things out and that's good. I think it's important that we have a broad paintbrush on that. Good, thank you, Dan.
Okay,
When does that go into effect?
5 days
5
from the
days.
second reading,
For the second
is
meeting?
that right?
No, there's no second reading. This is actually one where we need to have a date plugged in to it. And I think the second whereas paragraph is a blank. It can be right away. We want to have a lead time. This is not a
Okay, so
5 day.
I guess right away.
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow? Okay.
Usually typically the resolutions will matter or the ordinances are 5 days. after
Ordinances
second-
are 5 days after publication, but this is not
Okay,
under that same rubric.
okay, good man.
all right, thank you. Okay. Second is resolution 2023-19, interlocal agreement with the Port of Kennewick for economic development projects.
I move to approve resolution 2319 interlocal cooperative agreement with Port of Kennewick for economic development.
Second,
All in favor?
send right away.
Wadsworth, I.
Okay.
Alcazar, I.
Okay, motion carries. The next is the first reading of ordinance 1054. An ordinance amending ordinance 1051, salaries and benefits.
Do we have to make a motion to have discussion?
No, but usually typically you'll do a motion, a second, and then discussion.
Okay.
But you can open the floor to discussion before any kind of motion.
Okay, I'd like to open the floor to discussion. You don't agree?
No,
Tell us what you want to do.
Technically, we're supposed to have a motion made and seconded in that discussion.
Okay, well, motion to approve.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second,
Okay,
and request for discussion.
Good.
Okay, so thank you for working to put this together. I think in our last meeting, one of the things we asked is our pro tem mayor participate in the discussions with the union. Did pro tem mayor Reed participate? Okay, and then I guess just to make sure that I have it correct. So ordinance 1054 related to what we need to pass based on the memo of understanding, even though the position lead tech parks facilities 1 remains listed, can the dollar amount of that position be changed to 0 since it won't be filled?
we can change it to 0, but for the year, we've already spent X amount.
Some amount of money.
Some amount, it's like 23,000 something, some. So it's totally up to them. If you want to do 0, we can do that, but we've already spent.
So
part
ze-
of it.
0 might not be the right number, but just like the planning director, the whole salary is not going to be expended for the year because of the timing for when they started. I don't know how this needs to be presented. I guess what I want to do is make sure that we agree no more than the 23, whatever's been expended is going to be expended on the position this year. That's just how I read the memo of understanding.
So we can put in the amount that we've expended to date, which ended, I think, in April. With that, the planning position, I would say.
Excuse me, Carla, can you speak into the mic?
Yeah.
Get it closer to.
I believe that we need to leave as is, as what it is. We're not going to expend that amount for
Mhm.
the whole year, obviously, but it still needs to be covered.
And it's an annual salary and that makes sense. The only reason, I don't know if it's helpful for us or hurtful, but we're going to be going into CBA negotiations very soon. And
Correct.
just because the position looked one way and will be brought back and left on the schedule doesn't mean the salary looks the same. So I'm just wondering if we change it to be what's actually been expended, since we're not planning to spend more on that position, if that's helpful for us, so we don't have to remember later.
On which position?
Lead tech, parks
lead-
and facilities one, because it's coming back as soon as we start negotiations for the CBA. That's what the letter memo of understanding
Yes.
says as I read it,
Yes.
but it doesn't say what amount it's going to come back at.
Just because you don't have an agreement with them yet, so you don't.
Correct.
know.
So hopefully it could be less or zero, since we hired a maintenance utility worker one in April of 2023 that wasn't budgeted for.
Correct.
I don't know if anybody else has any feelings around. I at least want to make sure I had the math right. And then I had another question, which is the recreation coordinator at this point in time. Is that position going to remain unfilled?
That is not filled at this time.
And since we're halfway through the summer, will it remain unfilled?
Right, but what I eventually would like to do, I'm trying to meet with I've got some meetings this week with some teachers to try to salvage some of that program. So I'd like to leave that in there for the time being.
And did we have someone doing the summer parks part-time for the 19,000 on the lowest level?
We did, he
Quit.
quit.
But yeah,
And we're advertising for a new part-time to get us through the summer. We haven't gotten any. No, we haven't. Yeah. And to me, that's, I don't want to muddy the waters, but we really need to hire a full-time person in addition. And I think we have a higher chance of getting another full-time position than trying to get a part-time position now seasonal. But that's just my opinion. I don't want to do anything to stand in the way of this agreement because we have people working and we need to pay them.
and they're getting paid. I'm supportive of approving this. I just wanted to make sure I understand the numbers and where we're at in terms of the staff that's working for the city. So we had a motion, a second, and discussion. Does anybody else have any other comments? Because I'm not. We can move forward.
I'm good.
Okay, all in favor?
Sandra,
Wadsworth, aye.
Funk, aye.
Alcazar, aye.
Okay. Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, then the next item is cancellation of the August 1st meeting in order to go to the night out.
so moved.
Second,
Okay, all in favor?
Sandra, I.
Wadsworth, aye.
Funk, aye.
Alcazar, aye.
Okay, motion carries. Okay, now I would like to take a break before we go into executive session. And how much time do you envision for this?
We actually have 4 different items that needs to be discussed. I'm gonna suggest that if we.
30 minutes.
I'm gonna suggest if we don't have 30 minutes, we're gonna.
Okay, return 7:50 from break and then give us 30 minutes to 8:20.
Okay, we return at 8:20.
And it's pending in potential litigation. Pending in potential litigation, I think that everything falls within that rubric.
Okay,
Mhm.
all right. Okay, 8:20. I don't know if we have action to follow.
I don't anticipate any.
We don't anticipate action to follow. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. We are now back in regular council session. And at this point, there's no further action, so I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Quickly, the park signs that were in the packet. I don't believe were addressed cost wise correctly. But in discussions with the mayor. I think we need to move ahead with starting to rename these parks. So my recommendation is as soon as she gets some dollar figures, if she could communicate that to us, we can start with one park, get that signed and a name changed. Everybody good with that?
Yes, please.
And then if you could bring back a resolution to change that either at the next council meeting or the August one. It'd be great to dedicate that park at Benton City Days.
Yes, it would.
Okay. And on that note, I'll give you that motion to adjourn.
Somewhere.
Okay.
Aye.
Aye.
I.
Okay.